Alrighty, here we are. We are live. Hey, everybody.
Sorry.
Morning.
Morning.
Evening.
Yeah, see, it's evening. Morning. For me, it's midnight. It's middle of the night. So, hey, how you doing, Millbilly? How you doing, Sila? Hello, Amberly. How you doing? And welcome everybody else who's with us right now. Today we're here to really talk about just upcoming events, really that are in the works or that are being talked about. So that's going to consist of two different things. The first one is going to be mainly one that Miss Jane Sharp is kind of spearheading and kind of at least getting proactive about planning and getting people involved with, and that would be a streaming event based around rally. So I want to say welcome to everybody. First of all, hello everybody. Mark,
Hello.
Paul, and
Morning.
Jane.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone in the chat.
Hello.
I'm in illustrious company at the moment, so I'm very flattered.
Oh.
Except for
So
Paul.
I think we're quite fortunate in that it's not a full moon over there on Crunch Island. Otherwise, the dude would probably be otherwise engaged.
I'll tell you something. I don't want to have to dispute where Crunch Island is with you. All I can say is that wherever Crunch Island is on Earth, if it's closer to me or if it's closer to Scotland, the moon would be the same in both places. It's where you are on the planet doesn't necessarily affect that too badly. I mean, if it's a full moon, yeah, okay, fine. You might have a less of a sliver in Scotland, maybe one sliver less or one sliver more, but we're literally splitting hairs. A full moon's a full moon.
I'm not sure about that. I can smell some BS. I'm going to check that out.
Maybe not. Who knows? So, but anyways, point is, we're here to talk about the upcoming events that are being talked about. Obviously, something for Raleigh, since Raleigh we can't all go and physically meet up at Raleigh this year because of COVID-19. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a bit of an alternative, something where everybody can get together, similar to Marathon, where everybody can gather together and congregate, and the live chats and that sort of stuff to that weekend, to get together and show support for Stephen and Brendan, even though we can't physically do it. So that's where we're headed with this. So I'll let Jane kind of start off talking about what she kind of has in mind.
Yeah, so morning, everybody. I apologise for not being on camera. It's a bit early for me. And I'm on my phone as well, and it gets a bit distracting when you're moving your phone about. So, yeah, so I kind of thought, because this year, like Erekose's just said, because we can't physically be at Raleigh, there was still no reason we couldn't do something in support of Stephen and Brendan. So I thought about doing something with, obviously, all getting everybody involved and having like an online streaming event on the day that Raleigh would have been, so June 20th, where everybody can get involved. We are just like in the planning stages at the moment. I know we haven't got much longer, but it's just something simple where we can just get together and all show our support. We can still do banners. Becca Nash had a great idea. We'll have a hashtag on Twitter, and we can post banners on Facebook. We can just all get together, really. So at the moment, we're still kind of planning on how things are going to work.
Right.
But yeah, so all our ideas are welcome.
Right, obviously.
You can use hashtags on all the platforms now, so
yes, on any,
so just get sharing on whatever platforms you're on. Once we've got the hashtag and that.
Yep.
I was thinking something like Rally 2020 or Rally for Stephen and Brendan 2020.
Yeah. What was it last year? Man Rally. 2019.
I think it was the 14th and 15th. It was a few days earlier than it was going to be this year, wasn't it? I'm sure it was the.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
can tell.
It's always right around the middle of the month, but yeah,
I think, yeah.
I believe it
You
was.
mean like the name, though, some sort of name it had last year? Is that what you're thinking?
What was that?
Are you wondering what kind of name maybe
Okay,
to call
this year
it?
it was going to be the 19th because that's a Friday. So
We were having it this year Friday and Saturday, and last year we had it just on the Saturday.
this time it'll be the 20th, right, Jane?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Saturday.
I think it's Saturday the 20th. Yeah. Yeah, that's
That's
what
what I'm saying. I think she was saying making it sound like it was a name for it. Is that what you were meaning, Jane? Like coming up with a name, sort of like
just
2020.
just for a hashtag, really, just so we've got one, the same hashtag. So, yeah.
I think last year it was Mam Rally 2019, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like that.
Probably something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Mam Rally 2020 sounds good.
So, Jane, could I ask you, is it the intention probably within about a week, I guess, to have some formal structure as to how we see it unfolding?
Yes, definitely, yes. Because obviously time's ticking on now. It was kind of a last minute thought. So it's just something simple, where we can all get together, and obviously as many people to get involved as possible, because we're all supporters, and we all want to show our support. So
and I would mention we have the European, or that leg of this kind of covered, because we have enough already people there. We have Mr. Capaldi, Sharon, and you two already. I
know Linda wants to be involved as well. So
on the American leg on the first 5 hours.
And Jerome,
we're going to ask Jerome.
We're on the European leg.
So
so we just need a few more people to host on the American leg, and because
how many hours are we looking at?
It's 10 hours, so it'd be
so you get 9 hours, and the rest of us share the other hour. Is that right?
We've all got to go on together. Yeah.
You're asking Jane? This is her plan.
No, you.
Oh, me. Oh, okay. Well, it's not my plan. So I believe she's saying that it's 5 hours for the UK leg and 5 hours for the American leg. I believe is what she said. So.
Sure.
Hang on a minute. We need a third leg there. What about Australia?
Yeah. We got Dr. Silverman and everything. I mean, maybe we could put together Australia.
Absolutely.
Tracy Keogh and all the great supporters down
Head,
here.
shoulders,
Is she willing to start a YouTube channel?
Who's talking?
Tracy Keogh?
I don't know. She can come on mine.
My plan is for everyone to be involved. I want, everyone to join in. It's not. I know, obviously, you said it's like it's my idea.
And Brendan,
I just, it's for Stephen and Brendan. It's, I want anybody can have any, they can message me or message any of you, because I think it's just about bringing everyone together and, supporting the boys. And that was just, basically what I was thinking. So,
and of course, the Saturday, the 20th, starts first in my part of the world before all of yours. So we can we can get more out of it if we sort of base it on the actual clock, right? So midnight Friday night, you guys are still working or sleeping or whatever you're doing when it's midnight on Friday here. So maybe we can do it in the time zones. finishing with Erekose on Crunch Island, somewhere in the there you go.
I'm not the boss.
Just walk across the world, right? So.
What did you say, boss?
What's that, boss?
I'm never going to hear the end of this.
Change your name to Boss X.
It's because you didn't want to be the boss. You've been forced.
Yes.
I think Erekose knows how that feels.
Needs to get a little name badge now saying boss.
Oh God, what have I started?
Man,
Jane Boss.
good times.
What have I started?
Sharper than a boss.
That's because you've got all the ideas, Jane.
Yep. It's a very good idea.
I should keep my mouth shut.
No.
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 Is that a realistic option?
Not really. Not really.
No, I know it wouldn't be for me.
Oh, brother. Oh, man. So that's something we got looking ahead 2 weeks here, folks, for that weekend on Saturday. About a 10-hour event, not like, our previous 2 marathons of 48 hours, but a much shorter one for that Saturday when we would normally be, or many people would be gathered in Wisconsin to, show their support in person in front of the Manitowoc County Courthouse. So I'm sure Paul will have the Manitowoc County Courthouse on his green screen behind him when he's broadcasting that weekend. So that'll help,
And
So.
Linda as well.
And Linda probably will too. Yeah. Absolutely. So,
Jane might. I was going to say Jane might.
So everybody who's playing with the green screen can definitely have the Manitowoc County Courthouse behind them.
Yeah, I definitely need to get mine sorted out though, because I think I'm going to take Eric's advice and get some Velcro for the sides.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it doesn't. It's just a bit botched at the moment.
So it doesn't rain.
It's all right. It does the trick, doesn't it?
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I just don't like it when it goes all, fuzzy. Especially when you've got nice pictures of people and then it's all going fuzzy in the background. So,
Right.
But I'll
perfectionist. It's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Righto. So looking forward to that. That'll be great.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
So moving beyond, obviously that rally streaming event that is in the works, and obviously Jane will be coming with more information here and over the next couple of days and week, and obviously leading up to it. But we're still, obviously, as she said, we're still kind of in the planning stage. But she is the boss, folks, especially now that she muted her mic. So anyway,
She's trying not to come out with any new ideas.
No, we will keep everyone up to date, and obviously, there'll be tweets about it, and
right, absolutely,
we'll keep everyone informed.
Right.
But yeah, like I say, if anyone's got any ideas, feel free to come, to any of us or message me, because like I say, we're a community and it's showing support for the boys. So I'm happy, to welcome anybody's ideas.
Sure.
You're just trying to get someone else to call the boss.
Yeah, you must start your message with "Hi, boss."
God,
no idea.
It's a good thing you're probably starting with this, because starting small with just a 10-hour event's probably better off, So
yeah,
I
mean, it can be simple. It doesn't,
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
There's still a lot of planning that ends up getting.
Of course,
involved,
yeah.
So, but but it's going to be good, because at least people then will have somewhere that weekend, instead of just going, oh man, no rally, no nothing or whatever. They'll be able to have somewhere to go. So that'd be nice.
Because I'm sure I speak for the people who attended the Manitowoc rally, because I know us who attended the London Rally, we had a great time, and it was such a fulfilling day. And I just think it'd be a shame to let it go by without us doing anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's perfect for me, because I wouldn't get to go to any of the rallies. So
no,
it's perfect. I'd be like, I'm actually getting to go to a rally for a change.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I
wish everybody was well and that we could have a rally, but I'm quite pleased to be involved in this. So.
Yeah,
I mean, as much as we enjoyed ours, we would have loved to have been in Manitowoc. I mean, that would have been.
We spoke about that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I mean, ideally, if I could have got to Manitowoc, I'd have been on a plane.
Yeah.
That reminds me, Mark. When do you think when do you guess that travel back to the U.S. might be available for you?
It's a very, very good question.
Not sure yet.
It's not clear. Technically, I'm not even allowed to leave the country unless there's some very exceptional circumstance. So until we get some protocols in place between countries about how people are allowed to come and go from a health point of view, which short of discovery of and utilization of a vaccine, I think the international travel is going to be based around having some health stamp, internationally recognized health stamp in your passport to demonstrate something. I'm not sure what that something is, but you know, we have a very low level of COVID infection in Australia, and but you know, if you travel overseas, and I could potentially carry it, someone could carry it back here. So I think to answer your question more directly, I'll be surprised if it's this side of Christmas. I hope that's not the case, but it could be. Things can happen quickly when they do eventually come to some agreement about what are the measures that need to be in place.
I was basically thinking around the end of the year as well, so that was kind of what I was thinking. So
for example, in Australia at the moment, even if you are allowed to come into Australia, and mostly that's Australian citizens returning, they go into forced isolation paid for by the government in a hotel for 2 weeks. So I don't know what's happening in other countries like that, but you could, if you start moving, you could end up being locked down for the whole time you're away. Plus, there's no real, well, there is a point, but there's probably no real point in me traveling until I know the prison system is open to visitors. I'm actually the last person who visited Stephen since COVID. I saw him on Monday the 9th, I think it was. Tuesday is not a visiting day, nor Wednesday, and then they lock the prisons down. So visitors since then. So
and over here in the UK, they have recently just started, even though we're like well into lockdown. Well, we're nearly out of it. They've just started doing like video calls where you can, so you have a video call instead of the visit, and that's what's happening in the UK at the moment. So they've only recently, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, started the video calls. So that tells me they're not planning to, certainly in the UK, not have visits just yet a while.
I think the problem, because there's such a, I mean this with greatest respect, there's such a unclear and coordinated path to managing COVID in the US. I don't know how you can create certainty at all. You know, you have some states abiding by certain rules, others not, and so on. So, you know, if people are the prison officers going in are the ones carrying in the COVID when it happens. I don't know how you can control that until you get some uniformity in the way you manage the movement of people around the thing. So it's a tough one, that one. But, you know, I visit Stephen in my mind every day, and Brendan. So,
yes.
I think most of us do, don't we? Most of us have a thought for them.
And I'm really pleased, as I know you all are, that things are happening, and Kathleen Zellner is obviously amidst the preparation of her response to the state's response. So I know Stephen's very excited about that, and he's spoken to Kathleen in recent days. So, yeah.
Right. From what I understand, he's doing very well. So Sandy says it, KZ says it. I believe that's what's probably going on. So I think Steve's probably okay going out of it.
Yeah.
Well, so going by that question from how is Steve with the diagnosis? I take it he's pretty well then.
He's well. He was unwell for when I say unwell, he wasn't feeling well for one day.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's been good. So, and the nice thing about that, as best we all know, and you're never 100% sure if he's had it, he did test positive, and he's getting past it, then that provides a level of immunity now, as best we know.
That's not confirmed that that's definitely the way it's
Let's
working.
just hope that's the case.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you guys. I haven't heard of anyone catching it twice. So, but let's see.
I think there was in Erekose, where was it? Was it Korea? Remember there was a thing out a while ago. People were catching it.
Do you know
twice.
what though? How can we even be sure? Because like, you know, I've spoken to loads of my colleagues who were sick like the end of the year or the start of the year, like after 2 or 3 weeks with the same kind of symptoms before COVID even came out in the news and stuff like that. So how can we even be sure that whether people have got it twice? Because they weren't doing testing.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you just can't know. And then obviously there's the stuff in the news as well about like fake positives and you know, the results coming back negative and then somebody's got it. You just can't be sure.
No.
Because we don't know enough about COVID. So the testing's been uncertain, I think.
Well, even the testing for it is so new because it's so new.
Yeah.
So there's bound to be some flaws, you know.
Yeah. Just like in the treatment of it. It was trial and error.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that in Australia at the moment we have nobody in ICU being treated for COVID at that serious end of the condition, and we've had nobody tested positive for COVID in the last 48 hours. And the few that were existed last week were for incoming people who arrived in Australia who are in forced isolation. So but you know the difficulty is that you can have it and not exhibit the symptoms.
Symptomatic.
And you can keep passing it on to people who don't exhibit them either, and then that's why you still need to be conscious of social distancing and just being cautious. So I've been working from home. Our office has been closed in a normal location, been working home for 12 weeks now. So we'll probably go back to the office in about a month, I'd say. So.
Right.
Not being able to travel, it must be driving you mental, pal.
That is a bit. It's helping the wallet, though, I should hasten to add. So,
right.
All the air miles that you're missing out on.
Right.
Yeah, right.
It'll all be back up and running before we know it.
Things are happening so fast over here.
Yeah.
Well, quarantine's pretty much got to end now in America because, I mean, it's just got to be done now. Everything's so exacerbated. People need to get back to work, and it's a wild situation over here right now. So
we in risk versus benefits, wasn't it?
It's what now?
It's weighing out the risks versus the benefits. You know.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing in Scotland. You know,
well, I meant in terms of finance. What's happening socially right now. Has completely exacerbated the fact that COVID-19 had already put a lot of people in questionable straits, you might say, or questionable situations financially, you might say. A lot of people out of work because of COVID-19. And so this current situation that has just popped off due to, a careless police officer in Minneapolis, Minnesota, is really unfortunate because there's so many victims in what's happened in this, store owners that just wanted to get their businesses open back up after being closed for so long during COVID, and a lot of the things that are happening out there. So it's bad. It's been a long time. People have been sequestered, you might say, or, like I say, locked down for a long time. And a lot of people are scared about the future. And this current thing, in one sense, I'm thankful that this is going to draw attention to this type of situation. So that the bad apples like Chauvin don't just feel like they can get away with anything.
Yeah, there needs to be a serious change, doesn't there? And it very often takes a tragedy like this to keep that interaction.
So true.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's scary because in the fact that people are now aware of this and are now really thinking about it in their frontal lobes, you know what I mean, more critically than I think people have in the past, because people were really shocked by what they saw, and they should have been. They absolutely should have been. That was inexcusable, but that's why it's being talked about right now with qualified immunity. I mean, the Supreme Court is really on the hot seat right now. The United States Supreme Court is really on the hot seat because now people are sitting here going, wait, what is this qualified immunity stuff? There was legislation passed in 1871 that was meant to give, you know, the American people the right to sue in a situation like this. Why is the Supreme Court taking it upon themselves to cobble together case law to back up a point of view they have? So that's like the big question that's basically happening right now. I mean, is the Supreme Court qualified enough to do that, or should there be more direction from the legislature? And I mean, that's going to be one of the big questions moving forward here in the next couple of months. You know what I mean?
I think for me, talking about qualified immunity, one of the things, this is an example of something that needs to be fixed in the United States, with all due respect, that has to be fixed by ripping away what's already there and kind of starting again. Just tinkering at the edges is never going to work. And so starting again for me is to ask the basic question, why should prosecutors and other law enforcement officials be immune from prosecution if they willfully do something unlawful or wrong? Why should they be any less immune from prosecution than someone like me, you know, who I manage people's money, and if I do something wrong, I get quite rightly sued, and so I should be. Right. So I don't see why prosecutors. I mean, it's one thing to do something wrong by incompetence or by negligence, and you have insurance for that. But when you willfully act in a way that you knew was wrong at the time you acted,
because you know that you haven't got an answer for it.
Yeah, and then there's no way you should be immune, and that immunity sets up bad behaviour. It entrenches bad behaviour because they can do whatever they like, they can say whatever they like, knowing that they're protected. In fact, you know what else happens? They usually get promoted as well.
Yeah.
You look at people
and a medal pinned on their chest, usually.
Yeah. So go back to the basic issue of take away immunity. Why should it be there anyway? For willful wrongdoing. What is the purpose of having it? What does it serve the public by having it?
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's the questions being fired at the Supreme Court right now. Is, you know, like, well, I'll put it this way. I mean, like, think about it really. Why do we not put our hands in the fire? Because we learned at a young age that when we put our hand in the fire, it burned us and it hurt really bad. And we didn't enjoy that feeling. And so we went, I know, I won't be putting my hand in the fire anymore.
Yeah.
Boom. That's why, I mean, if there's no consequences, what's to stop them? How can a guy like Derek Chauvin spend 9 minutes on George Floyd's throat because he knew, you know, even if something goes wrong here, I got qualified immunity. You know what I mean? There's nothing for him. I mean, literally, the people on the sidewalk are pleading with him, saying he's a human being. You know, let him up. He is clearly having some problem there and everything. And like, he's just like, he has that smug little, you know, look of self-satisfaction on his face as he kind of just glares over at the people talking to him. I mean, it's qualified immunity has allowed people like Derek Chauvin to exist. and have the power that they have. Now, I'm not saying every cop is bad, because I am not anti-law enforcement. I am not anti-police or anti-sheriff or in law enforcement at all. But I do believe that law enforcement are human just like anybody else. And, well, officers like Chauvin proved that to a T.
Yeah.
And you've got to look back as well about like the origins of qualified immunity. Like, why was it started in the first place? Like, at what point was it?
Well, in the 1980s.
No, it goes way, way back.
Well, if you go to the article I was reading today in my video, in the 1980s, it was right after Nixon came in, or had left and stuff. And it was at that point, the whole tough on crime thing had come in through Nixon and all that. And so the Supreme Court was, instead of recognizing this legislation, this, piece of legislation from 1871, which gave Americans a right to sue police officers and government officials and anybody that curbed their constitutional rights. So what the Supreme Court started doing is, when people came using citing that and bringing a case against a police officer or whatever, the Supreme Court started just by making a decision. Okay, that's literally all it is. They made a decision, and therefore, in making a decision that the cops, they said, this is the bar you have to meet. The cop has to be whatever the cop did has to be something that happened in that jurisdiction. Literally has to have the same facts and, plot points as another case that in that area that's clearly established. I mean, in the jurisdiction. So essentially what it's saying is your case has to have existed in a duplicate before you bring your case in order for you to be able to sue the cop. It's a ridiculous bar. You're never, ever going to ever be able, I mean, it's a one in a billion that you're going to be able to, point to some previous case that matches your case so closely that it would be accepted. You know what I mean? And so it's just a ridiculously high bar. And that's going to be where the Supreme Court's coming under fire here. And that's what they're going to have to relax it. They're going to have to lower that damn bar, because that bar is ridiculous.
Take the bar away.
Well,
but the basic
I don't know if they'll take it away.
Rebuild it.
I don't know if they'll take it away, because the justices are split. Some of them see a problem. Sorry, let me get Jane back in here. Some of them see a problem with qualified immunity but see some good in it, but they're like split like right now. So
we've been talking about this for 10 minutes or so, and I haven't heard anyone tell me what's good about it. So if I'm missing something, tell me what's good about it, because laws are supposed to be there for the benefit of the community. So tell me what benefit is there that I'm obviously not understanding.
The benefit is that it's there to protect good, honest cops who make mistakes.
You have insurance. You have insurance for that. That's an employee duty, right? If they're acting in their normal course of duty, either through mistake or incompetence, you have insurance for that.
Yeah.
That's fine. We all have that. But where we're talking about situations where people act willfully, in other words, they know what they're doing is wrong, that it's against either their professional or ethical standards or the law per se, then they should not have immunity.
No,
I agree.
Well, you've basically got two problems. First of all, you've got your qualified immunity for the police and prosecutors. Then you've got your prosecutors that have been given absolute immunity. That absolute immunity goes back to the middle 1800s. And the reason they brought it in, well, two reasons in particular. One, they did a survey of the 37 states at the time and decided for some reason to go with the minority who decided it would be a good thing to have absolute immunity. And the only reason they have this absolute immunity is supposedly so that it doesn't dampen the enthusiasm of a prosecutor to prosecute somebody. That's the reason why they have it.
Yeah.
Not to dampen their enthusiasm.
Yes.
Wow. That's just right there, isn't it?
That's the reason it's there.
So they're obligation and their moral compass to act ethically and properly in accordance with the law. They can't do that unless they've got protection in case they do something wrong. I mean, seriously, you're actually promoting that behavior by doing that. So that's what you're doing, and you end up with people like Mr. Kratz as a consequence. You know, with due respect to Mr. Kratz, his behavior was totally improper, and we know that, and he shouldn't be subject to absolute immunity.
Yeah, but as Steve Moore pointed out in that video with the dude just recently, you know, why do the cops behave badly? Because they're allowed to by their superiors. Why do they behave badly? Because the attorneys allow them. Why do the attorneys allow that to happen? Because the judges allow that to happen. Why do the judges allow that to happen? Because they were attorneys before them.
Yeah, they create a culture of that behavior.
Yes.
So, and they think that's okay.
By the way, I never did get a response from Aaron Olson to my email.
Did you not?
No.
To
be honest, Paul, he wasn't going to be able to just answer my question. You know what my question was. You heard me asking it on my video. I was asking him point blank the hard questions about Hoffer. So if you understand, so I'm specifically pinning him down. So he wasn't going to answer my email. He has to take that thing over to some Nina City attorney and go, can I answer this guy or whatever? Because he has to run that through the lawyers.
This guy.
Because look, if he answers that thing, look, I was just calling him out. I'm like, you can't deny that Hoffer was hit in the helmet with a bullet. You can't deny. I go, and I mean, I'm curious to if you seek to deny the fact that he was compromised by that bullet to the helmet. So by my reckoning, he was compromised by a bullet to the helmet. He was ordered twice not to get involved again or get back involved. He gets back involved anyway. A hostage ends up dead. He ends up lying to his commanding officer saying that he had been cleared by medical. Okay. So my question to you, and this is what I told him. I'm like, my question to you, Aaron, or Mr. Chief Olson, is why was he there? He should have never been there. If he was ordered twice, and then my kind of second part to that question is, how did everybody in that police department allow this to just go swept under the rug when we can clearly hear an officer at the end of that video, at the end of the $50 million bullet trailer, who wasn't hit in the head by a bullet, and she had a completely different assessment of what she saw when Michael Funk came out of the back of that building than what Hopper thinks he saw. If he admits to me that Hoffer was compromised, and he knows I passed that along to Eagle Nation or whatever, I think he sees that could probably go badly for him in court one day. So I'm thinking he's going to be like, yeah, I don't know if I want to answer that.
Big problem. There's one big problem in all of this, dude, and it's quite simply this, and I'm sure Rob Bellin would agree with this as well. The big problem, Brad Schimmel.
Yeah, okay.
Because the DOJ investigated it, and he actually came and spoke at Nina to the relatives and Eagle Nation, and said that they just didn't have at that time enough evidence to pin anything on Hoffer.
Yeah,
that's what they did. They said they didn't have enough. Now, how much more footage do you need to show that the guy shouldn't have been there? And was, right, as you've pointed out many a time, was absolutely delighted that he'd shot Michael Funk.
Yeah, right.
But that's your problem. It was Alan Olson replied to my email by discussing the $50 million lawsuit and mentioning that Mike Griesbach's brother William Griesbach had studied the case and had decided against Eagle Nations.
I brought up Griesbach as well. Here, let me read the email to you.
But the thing is that still doesn't address the issue of what about the shooting dead? The murder because everybody can see it on video. Everybody can see it, you know. And my point to him, when I get back to him, is that although he might be looking out of his windscreen and not in his rear view mirror, I'll point out to him a couple of things. Big problem for him. Making a Murderer came out. If Making a Murderer hadn't come out, none of us would have ever heard of Eagle Nation Cycles, would we?
Right.
You know. And the second point, there is no statute of limitations on murder.
Right. That's true. You know, but like I said, qualified immunity. So Hoffer's been cleared. I mean, the courts have basically signed off on this. So that's why the folks at Eagle Nation want an independent investigation. And that's essentially what I'm saying to Mr. Olson in the email that I sent to him about 2 nights ago. So I just said to him, hello, Chief Olson. I am Mr. Erekose, and now you have my email because of his response to Paul, where he said he didn't have my email. I'm sending you this email to let you know I saw your response to Mr. Capaldi. I will start by saying I have no serious grudge with you currently. I know you were only at the department a few weeks when the Eagle Nation tragedy went down. After 4.5 years of studying that little area of Wisconsin, I am disgusted at what passes for justice there. You referred to Judge Griesbach. Did you know he has a relative named Michael Griesbach? Did you know that Michael Griesbach and Mark Rohrer withheld investigational information from the AG's office back in 2003 and 2004? This was regarding Stephen Avery, but still shows immense dishonesty, knowing how things are run there. I have zero confidence in the investigation, that the investigation was proper or properly conducted. So Judge Griesbach likely didn't have all the facts. I know the hostages were never questioned, and that's a huge problem. Don't get me started on the child abusers over at the Wisconsin DOJ. What are your feelings about Brendan Dassey, if you have any? Here's my reasons for emailing. Hoffer was ordered not to get involved twice, yet he is allowed back in anyway. How is this allowed? How is somebody clearly or compromised by a bullet in? He is clearly compromised by a bullet in the helmet. He is obviously not thinking clearly. Even Kupel, the commanding officer, looks like a deer in headlights when he first sees Hoffer, that he's still there. Kupel clearly says he shouldn't be there, but he still is. Here's my question. Do you recognize the fact that Hoffer was compromised and had no business being there after taking a shot to the helmet? I want you to know I think Hoffer is 100% responsible for Michael Funk's death. He shouldn't have been there. I do hope you will have the good sense to realize this at some point and do what's right. Here's waving at you in the rearview mirror, but through your windshield, you will see I am also there too. Wishing you the best, even though I disagree with your assessment of this tragedy. Erekose on Making a Murderer. And that's what I sent to him. So he, that question for him is a hot potato. If he says, yes, I believe Hoffer was whatever, then I have in writing of the chief of Neenah Police Department acquiescing to the fact, you know what I mean? So that's why I think he's going to be not wanting to answer me. But there it is. The question was asked.
He's never going to answer that question. So
yeah.
There's a question there from Amber about, was it an accident? I don't think it's even regarded as an accident. The way that the Brad Schimmel presented it was basically that it was basically Michael Funk's fault because he had a gun and because he turned to run, that he was shot because he'd got a gun. There was that the permission, if you like, for the police department in that occasion to use force, which they did. And nobody has ever apologized. Nobody from the Neenah Police Department has even apologized for the murder of Michael Funk.
Well, the real victims in this, the hostages, were never even offered any kind of grief counseling, anything at all.
Well, according to Hoffer, there weren't any hostages. They were all shooters.
Right.
And if you notice, and if you notice when he's saying about the fact that you know, what's his name? Kufa, did you say? Kufel. The superior officer.
Right.
Kufel, yeah. Yeah, you know, he's when he says, "Oh, yeah, I shot somebody," and Kufel is like really concerned, you know, about Hoffa, you know, "Oh, that's you know, oh, I'm sorry to hear that," you know, because he realized the significance of an officer having to shoot somebody dead, you know, and he says, "I'm sorry to hear that," you know, and but Hoffa is just highly delighted.
Right. And Kufel understands the problem with an officer who's been compromised like Hoffer had being the one who pulled the trigger. I mean, Kufel, I think in that moment is going, "Oh, crud." You know what I mean? Because he's like, this could turn into a total shitstorm. And, well, it may have taken a little while, but it is. It is going to turn into a shitstorm.
I mean, just the fact that just immediately, the immediate reaction to the police was to say that, you know, that Michael Funk was shot, having been warned to, you know, to drop your weapon, you know, that he was given verbal warnings and he ignored them. And then the footage comes out.
Right. Yeah. The footage didn't actually ever really come out so much. I mean, the DOJ put it out on YouTube unlisted. You had to be able to. Somebody had to give you a link to be able to find it. But yeah, so it wasn't exactly readily available. But now most of it is. Now that most of us have been digging into it, now it's available in places for people to find it. You know. So, but you know, it's like it was another thing I said to. Mr. Olson or Chief Olson in my video, the last video I did, talking to him is that I go, I know you want this to stay in the past. I know that's what you're wishing for. This is something that came along before you ever got there, and you want this to just stay in the past because it's just, I get it. I understand how you feel. I wouldn't want to deal with this either if I was you. I mean, you know, it wasn't on his watch. You know, it's just a huge headache in his mind. Right. And so I can appreciate that. But yeah, still got to do what's right. You know what I mean? Especially if you're going to go and write that Facebook post the way he did, talking a big one like that. I mean, you had to know you were going to get called out on it. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, it's like I told him, I said, I'm impressed by your words. I'm impressed by the words of this post. But are you sincere is my question.
Like talk the talk, walk the walk.
Right.
You know, to take this back to the issue of reform and what would need to be different to avoid what we're talking about happening again. Now, things like that will happen occasionally, but they happen too often in the United States in law enforcement. And there's a culture in the way in which justice is administered and carried out that is creating a set of circumstances where large parts of the population don't have respect or trust or confidence in the justice system there. And in many ways, I mean, it's something I've often been critical of, is that the fact that you only on a good day, on a good election, get 60% of the population who are allowed to vote out to vote. Yeah. And if we're talking about voting for DAs and voting for judges and other things that go on, and sheriffs, you're lucky if you get 10% of the people out to vote. You're getting people in high positions of authority and influence being elected by small minorities of the total population. And whose fault is that? It's the population's fault. You need to participate in democracy. You just don't sit back and take the benefits of it. And the one way you can do that is to get out to the voting box and vote. And that makes politicians and other persons have to speak to the total population, not just the part of the population that is willing and able to go out and vote. And at present in the United States, and it doesn't matter which party it is, this is not a political statement, the current president of the United States gets elected by appealing to 30% of the population that can vote. How is that democracy?
Right.
It's not. And
people need to take an interest in our democracy. People need to start getting educated about the issues. These are all parts of what we're trying to do.
That. It's your obligation. It's not a. That's what democracy is. It's about responsibility. It's not about, oh, that's a nice thing, I think I'll go and use it today. You have to go and participate in it, and have a view and have a dialogue about it. And you mightn't always get your vote the right way, and sometimes what you hope for doesn't happen. But you need to be active in the process, and so that representatives feel they have to be accountable to everybody.
Right.
And there's too many grey-headed men running the United States in all its activities. And no disrespect to grey-headed men, but they don't represent the future of that country. And therein lies part of the problem.
Right, that's true.
Led by an orange-headed man.
Yeah.
I don't know what we are.
I'll tell you what, that orange-headed guy is actually kind of getting himself into some hot water, because even his own advisors are having to kind of rein him in a little bit, because he's talking about sending the military in to try to quell protesters. And it's like, that's a recipe.
I think he tried to backtrack on that, though, didn't he? I think he thought it was a knee-jerk.
That's an absolute recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
If I'm glad he has people telling him, oh, no, dude, that would be really a bad idea, because it would. I mean, it's, it just would. It would, all these people, all the type of people out there that are walking around with little signs like this, folks, it would make them even more pissed off. It would make their ranks grow even more. So I'm gonna show you guys this thing real quick. I'll make it bigger, and we can all have a little discussion about it. Let's see if I can make my picture bigger. There we go. So this was something that was out at a protest today in Southern California, where people are suggesting defunding the police departments potentially. And this has been a hashtag on Twitter as well. I wanted to show everybody that, and then I wanted to talk about this and how practical is that? How really practical is that? I mean, for me, as I say, I'm not anti-law enforcement. I understand that not all cops are bad. Most of them are really good guys. There's a few bad apples who take advantage of this ridiculous thing that the Supreme Court has cobbled together called, qualified immunity. So that allows some of the really bad ones to do some really horrific things. But I think for the most part, most cops are good guys. And so defunding the police department to me is not the answer, because there are people out on the streets who are, who will potentially hurt people and commit crimes, and,
Not potentially. They will do that.
They will.
Right. Yeah. Well, anyways, these things will happen. Yes, is what Mark is getting at, and so we need to have, police there to help, deal with those situations, because trust me, vigilante justice is worse. It's worse.
Of course, it's worse.
You just need to make them responsible for their actions. That's all. Like, the police are necessary, like you say, because there are good people out there, and
we just want them to be held accountable. Yes.
Yeah. Have a bit of responsibility for what you do.
We don't want to cut off our own nose to spite our face. You know what I mean? So,
the sort of thing that we saw happen in Minneapolis is will find its root in a culture of behavior that is controlled and should be controlled all the way to the top. So everyone has their own individual moral compass about what's right and wrong. Then you have, if you like, your legislated right and wrong as a law enforcement officer. But if you don't instill and enhance a culture of being good, then people will take the liberty of behaving in a bad way. So in no way lessening the liability and the culpability of the officer that's put knelt on his neck, that has come from a place far more than that officer. It's come from a culture that his behaviour that enabled him to do that without any fear or concern, and these fellow officers around him, would have exhibited itself in many other ways in his career around that police department. And those who have authority to control and administer and discipline and check have not done that.
Right.
So he's the one, quite rightly, being held accountable for the death, but there are accomplices before the fact. And as the culture of that police department didn't find his behaviour long before that moment. And that's the thing that has to change. Getting rid of immunity issues is part of it, sure, but it has to start at the top and instill a culture of integrity behind everything they do. That doesn't mean they can't be tough. They do need to be tough in many situations, but you can still be
in a
tough
safe
with
way.
integrity. Sorry, Diane, go ahead.
Sorry, I thought. Just do it in a safe way, like make sure that if you're going to grab someone up like that it's necessary. And it's never necessary to kneel on someone's neck like that. Like,
it's not.
For a ball, it shouldn't be done at all. Like, I've been involved in restraints myself as part of my job, and like you just could not do that in this country. Like, there would be no justifiable reason to kneel on someone's neck because it would compromise. You're not allowed to restrain somebody face down because it can compromise their breathing and kill them. Like, they've changed laws over here because of that, and that's what needs to happen to protect the people. Like, if somebody is complying with you, there's no necessary reason to, and they're not a danger to themselves or anyone else. There's no justifiable reason for you to grab hold of them.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
because it's like assault, isn't it? Diane, if you were to, it's classed as assault here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta take into the fact that this guy was already cuffed. I mean, he's already cuffed. So what on earth could have possibly happened with a cuffed suspect that warranted 9 minutes of kneeling on his neck? Well, we all know the answer to that question. Nothing. Nothing could warrant that.
No.
And
I mean, I don't.
So out in the open.
Even if he was on the ground, cuffed and kicking out at them, we didn't really see exactly what went on the other side of the car. I mean,
actually, there is one that came later that was on the other side of the car, but yeah.
I mean, okay, let's just take the worst case scenario, which is not justified in this case, but let's just give them the benefit of that, right? He's cuffed and he's kicking out and they're trying to subdue him and put him into the police car, right? Because he was sitting down on the pavement before that, cuffed. Just taser him for a moment. That'll stop him kicking out.
You wouldn't even need to do that, though, if you get the technique of restraining somebody correct. You don't. Believe me, like, I've seen it happen when people are kicking and punching and struggling, like, because of being unwell. That's why we do it in my department. Like, there's no need to taser somebody. Like, so if you just correctly hold them in a safe way, you can get them to a place of safety and then move away from them with no need to do anything else.
Yeah.
Especially when there's 4 of them and 1 of him.
Yeah.
Well, in actual fact, on the other side, when you see the footage, you see obviously the pictures of the other 2 kneeling on his back, and obviously Chauvin on his neck, and there is actually audio of what a part of the conversation where one of the others on his back says, "Shall we turn him over?" And Chauvin says, "No, we'll just keep him here like this."
So you would have to turn him over in this country.
Yeah.
You'd have to.
Just going back to the point, I'm going to have to leave you very shortly because I start in 5 minutes. But going back to this defund the police, I think that's I don't know that that's such a good idea. I think the criminals out there are going to go, "Oh, yippee-doo, it's Christmas." But where I would question is things like, during Robert Herman's reign as sheriff of Manitowoc, they spent several $100,000 on a new tactical vehicle. Have you seen the beast? It's a huge beast of a vehicle that they bought a couple of years back. It's cost several $100,000. It's the sort of thing that the military use, and they're investing in a riot vehicle in Manitowoc. What for? For the people that come along for the Manitowoc rally. It just begs belief,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of these cities have begun to buy up old military vehicles and things like that to be like their SWAT, like old Humvees and that sort of stuff. So I do know that's something of a popular practice in the States. So,
I'll send you the picture, dude.
CSI Miami or something like that with the Hummers.
Hummers.
Yeah.
There you go. So okay, that's an interesting thing. Obviously that it's a tragic time right now with what's going on.
Yeah.
Obviously, the George Floyd situation is tragic, and it comes at a time, probably the worst time it probably could have come, after everybody's been on lockdown for about 3 months. It's unfortunate that this is all happening all at once, and that there's so much tragedy out there for the American people and beyond.
Yeah.
But we need to continue to focus on what's important. And that's why, we wanted to do this video today to talk about rally, talk about, qualified immunity, talk about George Floyd and Derek Chauvin, and talk about all these things, because we all need to be aware of what's going on, because this is going to be another moment where there's going to be a lot of people calling for legislation, and there's already Senator Amash looking to put forward legislation to abolish qualified immunity. So that's another question that people have to make. Do we want legislation to do that, or do we hope that the Supreme Court adjusts and adjusts their case law with the 4 cases that are getting ready to come through their doors? And do they use those 4 cases to start establishing new case law to kind of redefine their, qualified immunity? I don't know what the answer is.
You need to be
Conversations need to happen, because not everybody agrees that would be the answer. So that's why conversations need to happen. Sorry, go ahead.
You need to be prescriptive on something like this. You can't allow it to later interpretations of this case as opposed to that case, or whether that's the relevant one. You start from point zero. No one should have immunity at all. Full stop.
Yeah.
Good policing and behaviour and proper ethics and conduct should be the way. If you aren't prepared to do that, don't join the law enforcement ranks. If you make a mistake by bad judgment or by just absolute mistake, well, then you're protected anyway. So that's just a matter of being an employee doing your job, just like anyone in their job.
Right.
But you start from zero. That's where you start from. And the only way you're going to start from zero is to legislate it. That's my opinion.
Well, my concern is with the legislation is, as if this thing gets through and passes, how much other crap's going to get tacked onto it along the way?
Well, hey, guess what? That's
about it.
You either believe that your representatives represent you, and if you don't, get out there and participate in democracy and tell them what you want. You just can't think about legislators as this band of men and women who we don't really know who they are, but they go and do stuff. That's supposed to be us. They're people who are supposed to represent our views and not just be some group of untouchables. Unfortunately, notwithstanding all those that have come in recent times, in the United States in particular, people want to gravitate back to party politics and, as they call them, grey men, with due respect to them as human beings, grey men being the wisdom of all things. And it's not true. And they certainly don't represent the future. There should be more women in politics. There should be more younger people making decisions. and younger people should be supporting change. It's their country that they're going to inherit it, and it's not evolving in the United States. I'm sorry to say it, but it's not, and it needs to. And law enforcement is just one aspect of a range of issues that these same comments apply to.
Yeah.
And you see the same thing happening.
Why is it? Ask yourself what you should expect from a modern Western government. What should it be delivering to its people? The wealthiest country in the world with the highest rate of incarceration in the whole of the world, including rogue states and countries we don't like to associate with. What does that say? You know, what does it say when you go and visit a doctor, a GP for a consultation, you get charged $300 for a 15-minute consultation?
Yeah.
Right. And if you did that in my country, I'm not sure what it is in the UK, just forget any healthcare system. The cost is about $50 or $60. Mm-hmm. Forget any insurance, right?
Right.
These aren't, in my view, signs of a country that is wealthy and very clever. And I have much respect for the United States, but it's not a country that's sharing its wealth properly.
Right.
And we see the sorts of things that we see going on in the streets is far beyond we can't breathe. It's not fair, and it's not fair in the United States. It's one of the most inequitable countries in the world when it comes to the distribution of its wealth. The wealth is not just salary, by the way. It's the way in which the country supports its people.
Right.
That has to change, and it's not going to change by all this from the 70-year-olds and above, with due respect to that group, which I'm not that far away from. It's not going to come. That change is not going to come from them. So the young people have the circumstances, they have the authority, they have the imprimatur to actually go on and re-own their country and make it great again, truly, not just repeat the mistakes of the past.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm off my soapbox.
Paul there. He had to run off to school. Class, I guess. And well, who knows? Maybe going to school. I know. I get the impression he plays hooky a lot anyway. But anyway, no.
Get shorts on.
Right.
Not only so that it's raining outside.
So.
Nice and sunny here.
Is he? Oh.
Yeah, nice and sunny. Sunny Scotland.
That's a change, isn't it? Scotland.
I know.
Mind you, I don't know what I'm saying. I've never been to Scotland.
No, but you know about it.
I have.
Yep, yeah.
Oh yeah, cool.
3 times I've been there. So
you've not seen me yet.
I'll have to get Jane to come up on a road trip one of the days when everything's over.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good?
Yeah. I think Jane's hoping to come to Scotland. She's hoping to come to Scotland. And...
after a road trip.
Yeah.
Erekose, did you want to just touch on matters for October later this year?
Yeah, so we're still planning it, and it's still coming together in certain ways, but we're planning an event for the weekend of October 2nd. Well, October 2nd is a Friday, but that weekend we're planning an event now. I don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, if it's going to be a 24-hour event or not. I'm pretty sure it's probably not going to be a 48-hour event. We're going to be trying to talk to wrongfully convicted people that can come on and talk about what that, how that happens, what that's like. And as I've said before, I think it's important for people to be learning about that, because, I mean, just knowing about Stephen and Brendan's case is obviously there's a lot there and it's good, but it's just one case. There's all kinds of circumstances out there and lots of things to learn from other wrongful convictions out there. And it's important that I think for people to really take an interest in that. So that's what this particular streaming event is going to be meant to promote and talk about and create more awareness for.
So October the 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those of you, October 2nd is a Friday. We're looking to start at that night, so where it would be late on Friday night, similar to like what we do with Mammothon. So,
yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking to do there, and then, and like I said, those of you who know, I've been Ricky Kidd. You know, he's another one that I would encourage you guys to watch and follow him. You know, he just had a video that premiered today that was brilliant. It was him having a conversation with a few other lawyers, and they were talking about certain aspects of the justice system. It was fascinating. I encourage everybody to go and subscribe to Ricky's channel. Ricky's gonna, in my mind, when COVID passes, when he starts being able to get out there and move around again, Ricky's going to become a very, very popular advocate for wrongful convictions. And nobody's going to shut him up. Nobody's going to be able to shut him up. He is going to just be a very loud, advocate for wrongful convictions. And so I think everybody should check him out now and get to know him now before he really does, I think, in my mind, become something of a poster child, maybe.
Yeah.
For wrongful convictions.
So since Jane's not here, I want to stick up for her and say something. So do we refer to you as the boss here, then, Erekose? Are you the boss?
Jane's in the chat, so be careful.
Jane's from here, right?
She's still the boss.
Yeah.
So you're the boss. She's still the boss, but you're the boss of this.
Oh,
you're not the boss of me.
Oh yeah, no. On the wrongful conviction, that's the one I have to own.
Yeah, you're the boss. Yeah.
And Mark too. So
yeah.
So and Mr. Capaldi, who already ran away because
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's school.
The scared little.
He did say I need to go in about 5 minutes. He did say.
I do remember him saying that.
Yeah.
Somebody's just said in the chat that Ricky's having a baby girl.
Oh yeah. That was in his video today? Because there was one video I saw that I haven't gotten to take a look at yet. I saw.
Signs.
So all right, well, so that's what we got looking forward here, folks. With those two streaming events, obviously we talked a little bit about George Floyd and qualified immunity and those particular issues in our justice system. So,
just before you finish up, sorry. Jane and I are going live tonight. We're going to be talking to James Didcock about Melissa Kaljazinski because she's got a status hearing it's been postponed a few times, but it's coming up. And it's such a tragic story to listen to. So we're going to get him on to tell people a bit more about her story. So it's going to be 8:00 UK time. If you're free, please come and tune in. It'll be over on my channel tonight.
That'll be great.
12 o'clock Erekose time.
Yeah.
1 o'clock, and 1 o'clock my time, or 3 o'clock Central, folks. I will be going live with Ripper, Jinxie, and Nosy Wren. So
right over there after
be watching out for that. So.
Well, I'll get sharing for you, Diane. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Andrew.
I'll set my alarm.
I'll be able to watch Diane still, but I don't.
Yeah.
Yours is an hour after.
I have to leave you early if I have to go start my live. So.
Well, the last time we didn't expect it was going to be a 4-hour stint when we had Ripper on. So make sure you've got some food and a drink.
God, 4 hours.
Yeah. Oh no.
No toilet breaks.
Oh no, you could go for breaks. There's enough people there. But yeah, they're great to chat to. So we'll look forward to that after our chat with James. We'll come over and see you guys doing that.
Right on. We'll probably be there for yours as well. So anyway, alrighty, folks, that's about it for this one.
Thank you.
If you haven't already,
Bye.
say goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. And
we'll see you.
We'll see you. Yeah. Mark's heard this.
Bye.
It's not his first rodeo.